Will life ever go back to what it was? Life is going to change eventually. And you make everyone happy. What's going on?
No, I believe what I believe then, and so I exercise my vote and my people's vote.
Grenade Live every Wednesday. Hey, now that's hitting the right note.
Good afternoon, participants. Welcome to today's webinar. My name is Dr. John Kinyuru. I'm the Director of Research at JQuat. And today's webinar is on developing quality research articles. And the speaker today is Professor Waweru Mwangi. Professor Waweru Mwangi is an associate professor in the Department of Computing at JQuat. He obtained a PhD in Information Systems Engineering from Hokkaido University, Japan in 2004. He teaches and does research in the areas of artificial intelligence, simulation and modeling, and software engineering. He has received research funding from Research, Production and Extension Division of JQuat, to the National Council of Science, Technology and Innovations, from Africa AI Japan, among other bodies, to do research in his areas of expertise. He has many publications in refereed journal, both locally and internationally, and he's currently the editor-in-chief of the Journal of Agriculture, Science and Technology, which is sponsored by JKUAT. So members, allow me to welcome Professor Waweru Mwangi to share his presentation, to share his screen, and take it up from there. Before he does that, this webinar is live on YouTube at the JQuat page, that is at Discover JQuat. So in case there are people who may not have registered, or they registered but they are not able to log in because we had massive oversubscription, kindly direct them to the JQuat page and they will be able to follow the proceedings live from there. As Professor Waweru makes his presentation, we can use the chat option to post our questions and our queries. which we can then respond once he finishes his presentation. So I'll also post the YouTube link on the chat so that we can share with our colleagues and friends.
We have lost you.
Yeah, it appears like I think Dr. Kinyoro's connection had a problem. So hopefully maybe we'll get started and then we see. I think he might just reconnect. I hope you people can hear me.
Yes, we can.
Okay, okay. So let me just try and share my screen and then we just pick up from there. I think Dr. Kinyoro will join us.
Professor Waweru, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Oh, I don't know at what point I lost my internet. So at what point did I stop? Or had I started?
You are, I think, about to say that you are posting the link on the chat.
Ah, great. Yes, then yes, I posted the link on the chat so that we can share with our colleagues and friends. I lost my internet at some point, but with that, Prof, I think you can take over. But I also said that people can post their questions on the chat section, which we will then be able to respond after your presentation. Please take over.
Okay. Thank you very much. So I hope you can see my screen and you can see what it is that I will be presenting.
Yes.
So, okay, I was thinking of putting it on slideshow, but it seems like it's one of my icons, I think, is hidden. But my name is Waweru Mwangi. I am from the Department of Computing. And could you just give me 1 minute? I try to put this on full slideshow.
Okay.
So that everyone, or at least it can run the way we want it to. This is slideshow and then from beginning. Yeah, something like that. Yes, I think now, I hope now you can see it and it is on slideshow.
Yes, please.
Developing quality research articles. I want to talk about just a few things, and then as the director has said, then probably we can have some interaction on research and how we would like to do it. So I want to tell you about JUST. That will be the introduction and talking about our journal, which is called JUST. Then after that, I go now to matters of today, which is guidelines for presentation of articles, for publishing, and really how we can make this good research protocols, issues to do with disclosure of funding sources, licenses and copyright, and data availability, and the whole thing about data management. So to start with, JUST, Journal of Agriculture, Science and Technology. This is a peer-reviewed biannual research publication, first produced in 1997. It features research in agriculture, biotechnology, forestry, human and veterinary medicine, engineering, architecture, information technology, physical and social sciences. It also carries current scientific reports and questions of publications with a scientific orientation. The journal serves as an important tool in the university's research, production, and extension, RPE's mandate to facilitate dissemination of research findings. And that is our email. And this is the email that others use also to submit. If you have an article, this is the email that you use to submit your article to JUST. But you can see, we have basically tried to cover a wide selection of areas of research, and we fall under RPE, research production and extension. Objectives of JUST: to provide a platform for university staff and students and researchers from the region and all over the world to participate in the discovery, transmission, preservation, enhancement of knowledge in various disciplinary areas, contribute towards the university's goal of integrating teaching and research for effective application, preservation of knowledge and skills, and to provide a platform for sound academic discourse among researchers. This is what JUST strives to do. Now, JUST has an editorial board. Recently, this is a new board. We used to have another board, but this is now the current board, which is relatively new, just probably a few months. We have Dr. Kinyoru, who is the director of research. He's a member of the board. Myself, Professor Bernard Kanoi is in Ehime University, Japan. Dr. Emmanuel Dokol, he's a member. He's in the Hamford University, Berlin, Germany. Professor Venkanta Komula, University of Botswana, in Botswana. Dr. Murege Kira, I think many of us know Kira. He was here, but now he's at Kenyatta University Teaching and Referral Hospital. Dr. Shohei Aoki. Aoki is a JICA expert. He's a member of the board. He is also an adjunct professor at the School of Mechanical and Mechatronics Engineering. He's an engineer. Dr. Kristana Stanga, Sipe. Dr. Chakare Ben-Hura, University of Zimbabwe. And Vitalis Opondo. Vitalis is the scientific editor of the journal and also the secretary of the board. So those are the board members. The editorial board, they are the ones who make the final decision on what it is that we put in the journal. And we've tried to distribute. Some are engineers, like you have said. Some are in chemistry, like Dr. Chakare. Everyone knows, I think, Dr. Kinyoru, who is in food science. And so try to spread, but of course you can't have all fields here. But that is the editorial board of JUST. So now that's about JUST. Now we want to talk about publishing and getting those quality papers. Now, so we start by saying that submitted articles must comply with internationally accepted standards for research, practice, and reporting, including data management, reproducibility, and reporting guidelines. Now, so of course, these are big terms, these terms like reproducibility and reporting guidelines and what we generally call internationally accepted standards. So we'll just briefly mention this or share or talk about this. There is also the issue of ethical oversight. It's important to uphold and maintain standards of research ethics. Just we work with JQuat's that is IERC to maintain these standards. JQuat has formed what is called IERC, that is Institutional Ethic Research Committee. But really, whether you are submitting to just or whatever else, the issue of research ethics is extremely important in terms of ensuring quality of the work. The other thing is about protocols, reporting research protocols. Entities such as protocols.io, and of course the others, but this one is an independent open access platform, facilitate the communication of laboratory methodological details to increase reproducibility. And we highly recommend depositing of laboratory protocols, such entities. Now, so what we are saying is that for places which are relevant for research that is dealing with, protocols or protocols are relevant to that research, then it is important that you observe this and you deposit laboratory protocols. Now, people, of course, in this area, know what, or in certain areas have their own definition of protocols. One of them is on this point here, which we are talking about, clinical protocols. Clinical protocols and protocols for other observational and other non-laboratory investigations may be uploaded as supporting information. Clinical protocols or protocols for other observational and other non-laboratory investigations. There are many things really about the way we carry out investigations. Sometimes we could observe things without informing participants. We could collect data that is probably protected, or whatever protocols we are supposed to adhere. It is critical really that we try and make sure that we observe that and we follow down and maybe deposit those agreements in the relevant to support the work that we are doing. The other issue is about competing interests. Competing interests, they could be financial or non-financial, they could be professional or even personal. They can arise in relation to an institution, organization, or another person. So this is one of the areas we have had issues. You find somebody says he has done this research here, and maybe he works with ISIPE, he works with KU, he works at the University of Nairobi, and all those things, they have they come up as competing interests. So declaring all competing interests is a good practice and integral to the transparent reporting of research work. So one of the best ways to go around this problem is to try to be as open as possible, to declare that this was done in a lab in place X, these materials were collected from this, finances were obtained from this organization, or whatever it is. Or I've even seen sometimes we get into even conflict with even our own students, saying that this was done by this student or this staff or who. It is better to try and put all these things clearly, declaring them. It is sort of minimizes this problem. Otherwise, you find in many research there's always some quarrel coming out of this, and people saying, I gave this or I was involved in this in one way or the other. This is closely associated with the issue of disclosing of funding sources, because it's one of the areas about competing interests. Others should declare what support they receive, carry their research, declaring funding sources, acknowledges funders' contribution, fulfills funding requirements, promotes greater transparency in the research process. Please, let us always try to write this. They could be financial directory, they could be in terms of facilities. They are still funding though, and it is good to declare that you have used lab X, you have used facilities this, because it increases transparency in the research process. Licenses and copyright. Now, many journals, including JUST and many others, they apply what is called Creative Commons Attribution License, CC-BY. Now, so what is this? Under this open access license, anyone can reuse your article in whole or part for any purpose, as long as the author and original source are properly cited. It facilitates freedom in reuse and also ensures that content can be mined. So most of these, there are of course others that don't operate under this license. There are many other licenses, and we are not going to discuss them here. But the one that is most common and the one that we are also using is this one, which is called Creative Commons Attribution. Creative Commons Attribution License, open access license. So anyone can reuse your article in whole or part. But what they must do is that as they do that, they must cite you as the author and original source. This should be properly cited. And that way, of course, this encourages research to continue so that then many other people can carry over from what was done here. And it ensures that if you are looking for data, if you are looking for knowledge, then we can build on what already exists. However, as I said, this is just one license. There are others which are even more protective. There are others that require, maybe that you must contact the author before you upload. And those where such cases apply, then you should indicate. Now, the other thing is about data. Data availability. Credible journals require others to make all data necessary to replicate their study findings. Now, they should make it publicly available without restrictions at the time of publications. Even when specific legal ethical restrictions prohibit public sharing of a data set, then others must indicate how others may obtain access to such data. So the data, of course, sometimes in some publications, they are using not so much data, so it can be put in a few tables. But in other cases, there is a lot of data. Whichever way, you must make all data necessary to replicate. The idea is that the work should be reproducible. So the data that can replicate that study findings should be available for someone really who wants to retry what it is that has been done. And it should be available without restrictions at the time of that publications. But we note that, of course, there could be some cases, because I think many people are dealing with different kinds of research, where there are some restrictions, ethical restrictions, with the sharing of that data set. Then you as the author, you should indicate that there is that restriction, and then indicate that, if really an organization wanted to get that data, how can they obtain access to such data? The issue is that, how did you get that data yourself? Then it should be possible for somebody else, if it's necessary, to really go through that path and get that data, whether or not there are some restrictions. Now, still on data, data is very important, and in fact, the way where we are going right now, the data industry, as we move towards or we are already actually in the knowledge era, data is the key driver really of our information and information and knowledge-based society. So the issue of data is very, very key. And remember, data availability allows and facilitates these things. One is validation, replication, the analysis, new analysis, reinterpretation, or inclusion into meta-analysis. Now, validation, we know it's actually to try and make it to validate, to see that if you are saying this thing is boiling at 100 degrees, like water, then maybe somebody else can actually be able to prove that. And replication is redoing it. The analysis is actually to reapply those methods. And the new analysis is actually trying now to bring in other methods, probably to do the same analysis using different methods. And out of that, you might get reinterpretation. So, you know, from whatever interpretation you are getting, a new interpretation can be, or inclusion into meta-analysis. Now, we talk about meta-analysis is more about looking at the metadata. And what is this? This is data about data. The one that describes the data, or analyzing data at the second level, then that is meta-analysis. And for you to do meta-analysis, then again, data must be made available. Then the other important thing, that actually first one is the most critical. Then reproducibility of research. If we do research, then it should be possible that someone else can reproduce it and get the same results. So data availability is what is going to facilitate this. Then efforts to ensure data are archived, increasing the value of the investment made in funding scientific research. So again, data availability helps in this archiving, you know, the storing of this data. If you don't avail it, then, you know, it's not being archived in those areas. And once it is archived, then even the funding body, whatever the objective of that funding body, one of it is actually met. Then reduction of the burden on others in preserving and finding old data and managing data access requests. So when you avail the data, then you don't have to carry this burden of you know, preserving and finding the old data and even managing this access because you get a lot of access requests. And the last one is citation and linking of research data and their associated articles. It is important that it will be cited, and it makes it easy when it is availed, and linking of this data to other associated articles. Enhancing visibility, of course, this enhances visibility, ensuring recognition for others, data producers, and curators. Now, you know, there's a difference between data curators and data producers and curators. You know, for example, if you take a photo, like now there are sometimes you're taking some videos of if you are studying, say, video analysis, images and videos of animals, movement, how animals are moving, say, for example, goats or cows or whatever other animals. Then you could be the data producer, but the owners of those animals could be the curators, probably the one who owns that item. But of course, depending on the environment and the field, there could be a lot of meanings for this. But the idea is that all these people need to be recognized. Visibility and ensuring recognition for others, data producers, and these curators. In many cases, they are different parties. I have seen some situations like now those ones I'm talking about, where you go to places where you want to take videos, and those people insist on being paid because they cannot see any other importance of you know, why you should take their video, you should take their images. So providing this and increasing this visibility could probably help in even having these people to have some kind of a faith in what they are giving you or what you are doing. And this is really kind of making them part of their research. Of course, if there are even other bodies organizations like KWS and the others, hospitals that should also be cited. So in today's research, the issue of data is very, very critical. There could be other things that also data availability allows and facilitates, but these are some of them. But whichever way, whatever we do, one of the things to ensure, on top of doing the methods, using the methods we are using in our respective areas, the data itself is very, very, data availability is a very key thing. Then related to this is that sometimes there may be the issue of DMPs. What are DMPs? Data management plans. Now, some funding agencies have policies on the preparation and sharing of data management plans. Some funding agencies, you know, some who will see, who will give you the funds will insist that you must have a DMP. Others dealing with such agencies, we may be required to prepare, you know, these DMPs as a condition for securing the grant. Now, in such a case, then we encourage others to prepare such DMPs before conducting their research, and then make those plans available to editors, reviewers, and readers who wish to assess them. So the important thing is that this should be prepared before, so that then you can have a plan. It's part of your research methodology that you are talking about how this data is going to be shared. I think people dealing with sensitive data, like those ones in maybe in the medical field, or even many others, really, they should have, or some organizations require them to have this kind of plans. Data management. How will the data be managed? I've already seen some research that was talking about children, and as immediately you talk about getting data for children, then the question is how, you know, how will that data be managed? How safe is that data? And you know, how does this endanger the children and things like that? So those kind of things and many others, they require you to have what's called a DMP, data management plan, which could even be reviewed and maybe accepted or improved. Now, third-party data. For studies involving third-party data, we encourage others to share any specific to the analysis that they, you know, how they can legally distribute. Now, of course, we recognize, however, that others may be using third-party data they do not have the rights to share. When third-party data cannot be publicly shared, others must provide information necessary for interested researchers to apply to gain access. So third-party data is like, for example, people in IT are using a lot of third-party data. If, for example, you are trying out a method and you are using data, you know, for example, now I've seen a lot of data on social media, for example, and there are organizations that are storing this data, and those are the ones that we are calling third party. So meaning you don't have to collect data from scratch. You go to those organizations simply just now, you know, they are like sites which have got a lot of this data. That is that party, since, you know, you are the first party and what you are writing or whoever produced that data could be a second data, the second party, and the third party is now where it is stored. So what you need to share is actually share those details and show how that is distributed. And if it is restricted, then you probably need to say so that this is restricted, even though you yourself manage to share it. But this is more like secondary data, which the researcher did not correct. And as I said, right now, there is a lot of data on the internet which is available, which could be considered to be a third party. Now, for any third-party data that the others cannot legally distribute, if you can't legally distribute, they should include following information in their data availability statement. So you can have a statement, a data availability statement upon submission. One is a description of the data set and the third-party source. Description, you can describe, and then the third-party source. In many cases now, we sort of just cite the web page. If applicable, verification of permission to use the data set where necessary. You could state the kind of permission that you got, and then all necessary contact information others would need to apply to gain access to the data. So this is what is needed to be included again as part of good methodology. Others should properly cite and acknowledge the data source in the manuscript. And please note that if data has been obtained from a third-party source, it would require that other researchers would be able to access the data set in the same manner as the others. So this is third-party. Those who are interested should be able also to access and get the same data. So third-party, for any third-party data which is not collected, primary is not primary data, then these things need to be noted so that then the work can be considered to be good, transparent, and enhances quality and even acceptability. I think we have had a lot of news about how data is being shared in COVID-19 research. And sometimes I think we've been hearing situations where they say they have not given these rights because maybe data has not yet been shared about this or the other. So, of course, that one is not that bad. That is more in the medical field, but it all emphasizes the concept of trying to have data shared properly so that then whatever research is done is well accepted. Now, qualitative data, just a few mentions on qualitative data. For studies analyzing data collected as part of qualitative research, remember, this is the opposite of quantitative. Quantitative research, others should make excerpts of the transcripts relevant to the study available an appropriate data repository within the paper, or upon request, if they can be shared publicly. If even sharing excerpts would violate the agreement which the participants consented, then others should explain this restriction and what data they are able to share in their data availability statement. So this is qualitative data. Now, the issue about qualitative data is that it is more about feelings, likes, and dislikes, and it is not. It is extremely. It is in many cases subjective. It's not. We can't say that it is very objective, but it depends on what that person said or what that person likes or things like those. So analysis of such data is normally sensitive, and the results that will come out of that are sensitive. This is why we are saying that for this, others should make excerpts of the transcripts. These are like copies, or simply just extracting what it is to the study available. Of course, this could even include photos or or videos or images or whatever it is within the paper, or upon request if they can be shared publicly. But if they can't, then you need to state. As we said, there are many others that you cannot. Like we recognize still when it comes to issues to do with medical, this may probably not be may not be allowed. But in that case, you still have a data availability statement that can be made so that then again, the process could look as transparent as it should. Now, there are other sensitive data, not just qualitative, some data that do not describe human research. Human research participants may, some data that do not describe human research participants may also be sensitive and inappropriate to share. So probably it's not just human related, but there could even be others. Studies analyzing other types of sensitive data, others should share data as appropriate after consulting established field guidelines and all applicable local laws. So which are these? Examples of sensitive data that may be subject to restrictions. They include, but are not limited to, data from field studies in protected areas, locations of sensitive archaeological sites, locations of endangered or threatened species. These are just examples, but all these could be sensitive data, these which are not human related. And what is important is that then this should be made clear and should be well described that these ones were in those protected, they fall in those protected areas. Locations of archaeological sites or even endangered. Now, we know there are many people here who are dealing with, for example, animals, and maybe some of those animals are protected, some are endangered. The little I know, the little research I've listened to about animals, I've not seen, I don't think those ones are endangered, but I know the others which are endangered. I know someone like Dr. Kinyoro is dealing with crickets. I don't know whether crickets are really endangered or not. Maybe he's going to tell us. But there could be others that are endangered or that need to be protected. There's also the issue of those locations. In some parts of, for example, those who have studied in China, you know, there are some parts that I think you need permission to go. So, and probably maybe not just China, many other places in the world. So all those are sensitive data, and then they should be, that should be made public, that is the situation that those ones are sensitive, or look for established field guidelines and all applicable laws, local laws, local to that particular area. So that is all that I had prepared. There are many things, of course, about preparing some good research, but this is simply just to promote, you know, some debate about this. But the whole idea is that we can actually make good quality research and make it reproducible, replicable, and then try to make sure that we have good data management plans. And I think that if we are able to do this, then we can improve on our research, improve even on the indexing of our journals, and maybe get better results. So thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you very much, Prof, for that very, very interesting, very informative presentation. Really, that was very clear and very informative. And members, I think you've very well followed, and I'm seeing a lot of comments and questions. And thank you, Prof, because you talked about the journal that you're editor-in-chief. There's a question here about how do I choose a good journal to publish in? Because that's a question on a lot of people's minds, a lot of students, PhD, master students. How do they get to choose which journal they want to publish in?
Okay. One of the things we have been considering for choosing a good journal is the issue of index. And probably many other people, including you, director, can help me deal with this. But one of them is indexing. There are journals which are not indexed. Others don't have the sufficient indexing. But if you check on a journal you will see it's on the indexing aspect of it, especially the online ones. Then you can see whether they have good indexing. There is what we call EI indexing. There is SCI indexing, and that is EI is engineering indexing, scientific entity indexing. But journals which have got such acceptable indexing, and actually somebody can study about journal indexing, they are of better quality, as opposed to other journals which are not properly indexed, and there are some other journals which are purely, I would say purely what they simply just try to take advantage of, as long as you can pay them. Predatory, yeah. In fact, I think that's the term. There are some predatory journals. Send anything they tell you, just send to us. I have heard of some that are now asking $100, $200, $300, and you can see the kind of review process is not good. But one measure is indexing.
Thank you very much. And probably just to add also, it's probably look at the thematic area you want to publish in. If your research area is in computing or computer science, probably the first thing you want to see is what journal is publishing in your area of specialization. Because not all journals, even if a journal is in computing, you may not be interested in publishing your specific area of expertise, and they might disappoint you. So you may want to see which papers have been published in which journal, and papers that are similar to yours. Then those are probably journals you want to talk to. Sometimes you may even want to write an email to the editor and ask them, hey, I have this paper. Do you think it can fit within your journal? And most of the time they are very quick to respond, and they tell you, no, please. They even give you suggestions for sister journals or other journals in the area. Okay, thank you very much. Prof, now that you're the editor-in-chief of a journal, what makes the review process very slow? Because they are
what makes the review process very? Or what is the review process made of? Then I describe the review process. Now, the process, say, talking about the one that we follow in JUST. And by the way, our scientific editor is also around. Charles can also expound on this, that you send your paper, and then we check on what area it is, and then we look for at least two reviewers. These two reviewers, we send it to them, and we give them some time frame of, say, something like 2 months. Once they read the paper, they should be experts in that field. They write their comments and what they think, and I think it's good enough, or they identify specific areas. Now, so then they send back, and the secretariat of the journal will put those together and try and see, how the comments are agreeing, and that should be done again within a period of, say, about another month, and that's the review process. And if they are agreeing that it is good, then or whatever it needs to be improved, then that's very easy, because you just need to communicate that to the author, and as long as the author addresses that, then that paper is good for publishing. If they don't agree, then you have to look for another author. Or if you feel that maybe there are some things they didn't look at, then you can still get another author, after that review process. That decision is now made by what we call the editorial board. Like in JUST, I showed you the editorial board. The editorial board will look at that, and if there are straightforward cases, that's okay. If not, then they can decide to get a third opinion about this. But that is the whole process. as long as finally everything points towards, it is converging towards an agreement that this is okay. And once that is agreed, the communication between the General Secretariat and the other is appropriate, there's some agreement, then the rest is just formatting issues, so that then you can write your paper according to specifications, formatting issues of that particular journal. And then they should be able to put it up for publishing based on their calendar of publishing. But in a nutshell, that is the process. Dr. Kinyolo, you are muted. I can see you talking, but I think you're on mute.
Oh, okay,
yeah.
sorry. Someone is asking about predatory journals. How does one know about a predatory journal? Is JAGST a predatory journal? Is it accepted by Board of Postgraduate Studies at JKUAT?
JAGST is not a predatory journal. We are talking about predatory is where you see that I said that there are some journals that probably seem to be purely commercial. And so what they are looking for is to immediately you talk to them, actually what they do is that they send you their bank account and tell you to deposit this number of dollars. So, and the review process is actually very thin. You can see it yourself. If you are another, I think it will be easy for you to judge and see that this is predatory journal. They are not even so keen on the detailed content of your work. What they just tell you maybe some kind of small editorial stuff. Then from there they go straight into the payments method. But we cannot say Journal X or Journal Y would even be accused of that. Of course, who are we to declare this? But you are the other. You look at them, you look at the communication, and I think you can be able to make your conclusion, your judgment.
Thank you very much. Prof.
Prof.
Yes,
Hello?
yes,
Yeah.
please, Vitalis, go ahead, yes.
Yes, I just wanted to add something small about the review procedure. Prof has elaborated on that, but I just want to add just a little more information. As Prof indicated, nowadays we get all manuscripts are submitted online, soft copies, no hard copy. So we send these manuscripts to at least three specialists or 3 reviewers in that particular specialization. We have a database of reviewers, so we know the reviewers that particular manuscripts will go to. So each of them we give about 3 weeks, hoping that within that time they should be able to go through the manuscript and look at the content, look at the presentation, look at the kind of reporting that has been done, and then report back to us. Now, these reports from the reviewers, they don't necessarily come back at the same time, and it is seldom that they come within the 3 weeks. Many times we have to do reminders. We have to remind the reviewers. We have to send some reminders. Sometimes we do calls. So when the reports are resubmitted, of course, we acknowledge, and then we forward the same now to the authors. We deal with the corresponding author, even if it is a manuscript or a paper with 10 authors, there is one corresponding author that we'll deal with on all matters pertaining to that paper up to the very end. So we send these comments to the corresponding author. We advise them to act on the recommendations or do the corrections as quickly as possible, maybe within a maximum of 2 weeks or 3 weeks if it goes so much. Now, after they have responded to all the comments from the reviewers, then at that point, we pick one of the reviewers. We pick one of the reviewers. That is when now we have the revised manuscript. So we pick one of the reviewers, especially the one who was very insightful in the comments, you know what I mean? We send this revised manuscript together with the original manuscript and also the comments from all the other reviewers, or if it was 2 reviewers, the comments from the other reviewer, or if it was 3 reviewers, the comments from the other 2 reviewers, including his. So his or hers. So we expect this reviewer now, who has also had some interaction with the paper before, to look at the revised copy vis-a-vis all the other documents I've mentioned, and then give us another verdict. Is the revision up to date? Has the author responded to all these comments that were raised by the reviewers? Or there are still some gaps? If there are gaps, so at this stage, you are only dealing with one reviewer and the corresponding author. So again, it goes back to the author. Those adjustments are done. So there's a lot of back and forth. There's a lot of communication with the reviewer, with the author. And until at that point where the reviewer tells us, or the reviewer advises that the level of correction or the level of adjustment on the manuscript is now satisfactory. So it is at that point. Hello? So it is at that point. Yes?
We want to take you, there's some few questions that I want you to tackle before you conclude.
Yes.
Because of time, we are running out of time.
Yes.
There is someone who is asking what they need to be on the editorial board. What can one do to be on the editorial board? And then probably you would answer that one with what the costs are like for publishing, because someone is asking, how do you come up with the charges for publications publishing with the JAGST journal? Probably we could take both questions as we come to a close of the webinar.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Maina. I was actually coming to the element of cost. I think I'd taken the participants to the level of acceptance. Now the reviewer tells us this is okay. So there are now consultations between the scientific editor and the editor-in-chief. And then upon we agree on that, and then the acceptance letter is issued at that point. Okay, so it is at that point of acceptance that we request or we ask the author or authors to pay an acceptance fee of Kenya shillings 4,000. So the charge is 4,000, and this is paid at the level of acceptance. And then after that, of course, the paper is now ready, so it just awaits publication. We may not go into publication straight because we also have a threshold. Our current threshold is a minimum of 7 papers, 7 acceptances. So as we have 7 acceptances, then we now begin the compilation of that particular manuscript, as the editor-in-chief pointed out. Now, on the requirements for membership of the board, this is not something that anyone applies for. All those members of the board, even the previous members, they did not, I wish to clarify that they did not apply for membership in that particular board. What happens is that the research directorate, in consultations with the office of the DVC RPE, so a decision is made that this person or this person on the strength of the position is holding, or this person given our previous interactions with him. So there are several considerations. So let us have this person in the board. I think I've addressed that. Thank you.
Dr. Knuro, you need to unmute.
Does JAGST, there's still a question on JQuat BPA's acceptance of publishing to JAGST. It's important to the students who are logged in here. Kindly, what is the possibility of BPS to accept papers published in JAGST, especially for academic purposes? Maybe, Prof, you can respond to that.
Yeah. But the issue is this, that the journal doesn't tell you about another party accepting. It is that party that tells you that we accept journal. Like us, we cannot say that so and so accepts us. It is that person who can say, it is BPS that can say that they accept us. However, that is in general. As far as I know, just is accepted in BPS, but I have no authority, of course, to talk in terms of BPS. I don't know whether the director of BPS is, he's the one who can talk about that.
Yes, maybe I can respond and say that, yes, BPS, Board of Postgraduate Studies at JQuat, accepts publications in JAGST. JAGST is a JQuat-sponsored journal. So really, you cannot not accept your own baby. So really, that is accepted. There's someone who's saying the JAGST website seems to have no record of research post 2012. What happened? The website is actually under upgrade. So you'll not see publication. The publications after 2017 are actually not visible from on the page, but there is an upgrade that is affecting them, but they will be up. It's been a week or so. So they will be up in a matter of probably by the end of the week or so. The whole, you'll see, we have even up to volume 20. We just released an issue in June, this June actually, and it is visible. You'll be able to see it. But today there's an upgrade going on the site, so it may not be visible. Any other question? Let's see if I had noted anything else from YouTube. What is the difference between the first and corresponding author? And can PhD students be corresponding authors? Prof.
In fact, I think that for many of the studies I've seen, I think the PhD students are the corresponding authors. I think the corresponding on the first. They are also actually the corresponding author. A corresponding author, in my understanding, is the person who the communication goes to. Okay, is the one who corresponds, is the one who, correspondence goes to that. The first author is the person who is really carrying out that research, of course, in support or together with the others. But there is a person like my PhD students, I expect them to be the first authors, and I expect them to be the corresponding authors. I know that, of course, it may vary from field to field, and depending on whatever agreements that we have, I don't think we prescribe the agreement that you will have among others, but in general, the person doing, the one who is actually doing the actual work on the ground is the corresponding author.
And can the supervisor become the first author and not the student?
No, I know that's tricky because I know there are some supervisors who have become the first author. Probably they have their own reasons. But as I said, in most practice, since the student has been doing the work, he has been, he is the first author. But I say, as I said, it will depend on the kind of agreement they have and who's doing what and what they have agreed among themselves. But this is the general, the general practice, even for those who have published outside Kenya, those who have been students elsewhere, I think that they were the first authors and their supervisors were not the first authors.
Mm. Thank you very much. I think we really have run out of time and we would really have wanted to have this discussion going on and many questions are coming. But probably you would finalize, Prof, by giving us, so there was a question on the scope. What is the scope of JAGST? Maybe you can finish with that and then we call it a day in a minute or so.
Okay. The scope of JAGST is a little bit of what I had mentioned at the beginning. It falls within the mandate of the university. Since, as the director has said, we fall under RPE, and we actually we are looking at what the university is doing right now. Universities has got all these areas of engineering, agriculture, science, business, and what's it called? I think there's medicine and many. All those are within our scope, since we are an arm of the university, and we work under the Directorate of Research, which is under RPE. So all that is within our scope. That which the university is doing is within our scope, and we strive. As I finish, let me just say that we'll strive to make our objective is to make research better, to get good findings, to get good papers, to promote research within the university and within all the areas that it is doing. And I hope that we shall be able to receive these papers and also have reviewers working on them and getting high quality. Our real objective is to get this high quality work which is acceptable locally and internationally. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Prof. I think we want to stop there. And someone is asking the additional cost after acceptance. No, we only pay $40. It's 4,000 shillings. It's $40. There is no extra money. The journal is highly subsidized by the university. So thank you very much. I think we want to stop there because of time. We've exceeded our time by 5 minutes, and it's not really in our interest to take too much time. But really, thank you very much. We appreciate, and hopefully we will be doing this kind of webinars specifically on publishing in many other times, and we'll definitely be reaching out to you when we have. We are putting together more webinars on referencing, webinars on referencing methods and systems of referencing, etc., plagiarism, etc. And we'll be reaching out to you so that you can join. Thank you very much, and God bless you, and have a great afternoon. Thank you so much.
Thank you.